Good evening, ladies and gentlemen out there in YouTube land. I am Deleted Scenes, and I would like to welcome you to tonight's episode of Live from Sparkwood in 21. A tribute to a visionary director, the creator of Twin Peaks, the man who changed the way I looked at television, David Lynch, joining me tonight for this tribute. Superfan Last Call, Troy Pacelli.
Hey there.
And Netters Network.
Good evening.
Aged Boomer will be joining us later in the show. I want to say hello to everyone currently joining us on X. I cannot see you, but I know that you're there. And I want to say hello to those of you here joining us in the live chat. Channel member JPRPH1. Right.
And everyone, make sure you share out the stream.
Please do. Yes.
Because I've noticed that people tend to be a little bit slow in getting to the streams. And then they go, what did I miss? Well, you missed the last 20 minutes. That's what you missed.
Indeed. So I figure I'll start it off. I first became aware of David Lynch kind of before I really came to know him. I knew his films before I was aware of him. I saw the movie The Elephant Man. I believe I saw it in theaters. I don't remember for sure, but I for sure saw it on cable. And I knew going in that it was a true life story of John Merrick. And I went into, I was kind of a weird kid, you know. If you ask me to pick the movie, mistake, because I was the kid who was like, 10 years old. I want to go see Gandhi. I want to go see Amadeus. I was a weird kid, But I liked, Raiders of the Lost Ark and Godzilla movies and horror movies and all that too. But I did have this side of me that seemed to lean towards this sort of arty side for whatever reason. And that's the side of me to which The Elephant Man appealed. And so not only was I seeing a David Lynch movie for the first time, I'm also seeing Anthony Hopkins for the first time.
Oh, good point.
So it was an interesting experience, to say the least. You had an opening to that film that was confusing to a youngster, to say the least. You have I understand now, watching that sequence, that this is a woman. This was, Merrick's mother giving birth to him, and it is a difficult birth. She may also be being trampled by elephants. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it's the way that it is shot and edited together. That's what it looks like. But you go on with the film and you meet Anthony Hopkins' character, Dr. Frederick Treves. You also meet John Hurt as John Merrick in his Oscar-nominated role. And as with everyone else in the film, you might be at first horrified by his appearance, but as you go through the movie, you come to realize that this is a man who is, very intelligent, has, like I did, that kind of arty side, that wanted to write and wants to go to the theater, and so I found myself very quickly relating to him. And I think in the end that was kind of the point of the film. And Merrick, this real life man, he's very much the quintessential David Lynch character, this outsider looking in a way, Agent Cooper is very much an outsider when he comes to Twin Peaks, but as the story progresses, he sort of does become, one of the town folk. So that's the way that I sort of equate, Elephant Man and Twin Peaks. You later on get to Dune, and that's when, okay, at that point, I know who David Lynch is. I can put a name to a face. He's in the film, and very briefly, but he's in the film. And then I realized, oh, okay, he's the man who directed The Elephant Man, because at that time when I saw that film, I didn't really pay attention to who writes a film, who directs a film, who's the cinematographer. I wasn't really paying that much attention. But later on, I started to pay attention. And then you get to Dune, and I understand Dune is, it was literally like a 4-letter word to him. But and there's of course several different cuts of it, most of which he disowned. But I like that movie for all of its flaws. And that was my gateway into the world of Dune, and I became familiar with the books. And when I watched the other on-screen adaptations, I always compare them to Lynch's film. And thank you, Nate, for the very much for the $20 super chat. To the mad genius David Lynch of the creatives in Hollywood, he was truly an artist, from painting to music, and tell us all the mind-bending stories. He was an artist to his soul, and we will all miss him. We will indeed. And Nate makes it a good point here. This man was an artist. He was a painter. He was a sculptor. He was an animator. He was a musician. His album, The Big Dream, I think is one of my favorite albums of all time. Music being very much its own character, I think, in Twin Peaks. Of course, the late, great Angelo Badalamenti, and of course,
oh yeah,
Julie Cruz, who've we've also since lost. But to me, they kind of live on because Twin Peaks itself lives on.
True.
This is a man who not only changed how I looked at film, he changed how I look at television, and realized that, this, you could do something different with television. It wasn't just, you could do more than just be a procedural. You could do more than just be, and serialized television was there, but Twin Peaks showed that you could do more with it. And he left quite a footprint, that's for sure. And I don't know if in our lifetimes we're ever going to see anybody who can fill his shoes. Troy Nutter, you're
Yeah.
Well,
So-
wait, I just see a comment from Tim Smith. He says, just read the book David Lynch's Inland Empire Explained on Amazon. Great book.
I actually have it. I just haven't read it yet myself.
Well, apparently it's a great book.
Yes.
oh,
That was the second time you had mentioned how he changed the way you saw television. And you're not the only one. And I don't just mean viewers. He changed the way television was made from that point on. You pointed out how things were, procedural before then. And I mean, even look at, for example, any other franchise that people love, Star Trek, for example. Even when they were starting to do the Next Generation, right? For the most part, each episode of Star Trek stood on its own. You didn't have to have seen the previous one to understand what's going on today. And if you didn't see it until next year again, that's okay. You probably were still following things pretty well. There were some things that affected later stories, particularly, killing off a character, replacing him with someone else. But that was always true. There always had to be an explanation when a cast member was changed. With Twin Peaks, Lynch was drawing on, one could even say he was pastiching, if that's a word, possibly even parodying the late night dramas, like at the time was popular, like Dallas Dynasty, Falcon Crest, those kinds of things. Those were like soap operas, weekly soap operas told in prime time. So you really did have to watch episode to episode. And if you missed a bunch of episodes, you would be lost. The downside to that, from the network standpoint, which really made networks cringe at that, was, well, if a viewer doesn't have an easy on ramp, how do we get them hooked on the show? And if they miss a show and they get consternated because they can't figure out what's going on, they'll just leave. But again, this was, and Boomer likes to talk about this, this was in the days of must-see TV. You would watch, if you were into Dallas or Dynasty or whatever, you watched that every week. And if one of your friends missed it, you'd be telling them what happened so that they were caught up. And then maybe if, they reran the episodes in the off season, they could see the episode. We were also just starting to get into the concept of home video. It hadn't really taken off yet, but it was getting there. And that's why David Lynch, not only was he a pioneer and visionary for that kind of television, but he really butted heads with the networks over it. Very famously, he didn't want to solve the mystery of Laura Palmer. He wanted that to continue. He wanted that to be a through line throughout the series. And the network said, you've got to finish it off and start something new. And it really, really hurt the second season. I've gone back and rewatched the second season with that in mind. And the quality of the show is still there, but it's very clear that the narrative was hurt by that. David Lynch himself was not shy about talking about how upset he was with the networks over that. But the reason I go into all of that is because I wanted to point out how Twin Peaks was such a phenomenon at the time that it not only, impacted the networks to go, oh, well, we need more stuff like that, but there were more directors and writers that were fans of Twin Peaks that were inspired by it. And honestly, you wouldn't have the X-Files, you wouldn't have Lost, you wouldn't have, really anything that came out of the Bad Robot TV when it was good and enjoyable, if it weren't for Twin Peaks. And in a lighter note, what was that comedy drama about a small town in the Northwest?
Everwood.
Well, okay, no, I wasn't thinking of Everwood, but that's one too. No,
Northern Exposure.
Northern Exposure. Yeah.
Okay, I never saw that one.
But all of these things were directly influenced by Twin Peaks, and then we could go on and on about games. Yes, thank you, Tim. Tim got it. What is it, John Wake or someone Wake? And some other
Alan
games
Wake.
that are. Yeah, that's it. And to say that he changed the way people looked at entertainment is it's almost an understatement. It reshaped, and a lot of even if you weren't a Twin Peaks fan, even if you weren't a big David Lynch fan, you have no idea how much he impacted the entertainment you came to love since then.
No, I got to know David Lynch through Troy, watching Twin Peaks and Dune and Mulholland Drive.
And I subjected you to Eraserhead.
I don't remember Eraserhead, but yeah.
A lot of people block it out of their minds.
Yeah. But it was like watching Twin Peaks because of Troy's infectious enthusiasm about it made me want to watch it and see this mystery. And he also knows I love mysteries. So as we're watching it, I'm trying to figure things out, going, okay, is it this guy or it's this person, or how did this happen and what's going on? And of course, when it got to a point where you figured out who it was, it's like, oh, that's disturbing. But of course, then he introduced me to Dune. Mm. And I've seen so many variations of Dune. Mm-hmm. Of course, David Lynch's original was the best. But I really liked the story there. Of course, I had to keep asking him clarifying questions like, so is the planet they're on, they don't have any water because of this, or wait, and the planet they came from was all water, so they didn't have any desert.
Yeah, and you really can't saddle David Lynch with that. He did the best he could with what he had to work with. Again, kind of having his hands tied by the production company, and he was not happy with Dune the way it went out. So, really, what can you do about that? Welcome, Big Al Presents. But actually, what Netter said makes me want to circle back, because Deleted, you were talking about how you first experienced David Lynch. I kind of jumped ahead to the television element, but I came at David Lynch in a parallel way to you, but actually kind of different, because like, for example, you mentioned The Elephant Man, which was released in theaters in 1980, and I don't believe I saw it in theater in 1980, but I believe it was it was performed in 1979, and I think it aired on television in 1980 the stage play that was done by a U.S. Canadian television co-production. It starred Philip Anglem, I believe is his name.
Yeah.
What was incredible about that is, for everybody that wants, awesome makeup effects and CG and, everything needs to be perfect. This was done as a stage play. The actor playing Merrick has no prosthetic makeup at all. He's got, standard stage makeup. So, he's got a base foundation and eye makeup, but the production opens up with him standing on stage in a loincloth, and as the description, a very clinical description of what Joseph Merrick, what his affliction did to his body and what his appearance was like, the actor, begins to hunch over and, twist his limbs, following the explanation in real time. And by the time he's done, and then of course he's acting and, talking with the full mouth lisp and stuff, you swear you could almost see the prosthetics without seeing them. That was my experience, my first experience with the Elephant Man. And in grade school, our history class focused on that time period and the Elephant Man himself because it was in the pop cultural zeitgeist. So I was looking forward then to seeing the David Lynch production when I could. And honestly, I don't remember how and when I first saw it. That was how I came to the Elephant Man. Dune, on the other hand, yes, I did see Dune in the theater. At the time, really didn't know. So here I am, not really knowing who David Lynch was, right? From The Elephant Man. I just knew The Elephant Man was a movie, and it had done really well at the awards and was highly acclaimed. I saw Dune, and Dune was really riding the wave off of Star Wars. It was very clear that the studio was trying to, capture that hype train there, especially when you see the things that weren't in Dune that they were kind of forced to add in. Like, well, Luke Skywalker is a lightsaber, so you need to have some kind of a special weapon that we can market. And David Lynch came up with the idea of the weirding module. Okay, a lightsaber uses light. This weapon will use sound. And actually, when you think about it, it's actually kind of brilliant. It's one of those additions that purists are like, yeah, that's not in the book. But I consider myself to be kind of a purist, and I look at it and I go, but it's not a bad addition. I kind of like it, But there are some weird elements, some very, I think I'll be the first person using this phrase tonight. Some very Lynchian elements. When you look at the design of the guild steersman, for example, it certainly does nod to the description in the book, but it's definitely a look that that you see in a lot of David Lynch's more abstract works. So it wasn't until college, which was what, 89 to 90, that I went to university. Yes, I was in the liberal arts department. Don't ask. But because I was in the liberal arts department, there was a lot of those artsy fartsy types. And there was I wasn't in the drama department, but I knew a lot of people that were in the drama department. When I would go to pick up my textbooks, of course, I'd be at least looking at all the drama books, and that's where I picked up my first. And this was not for a class. This was just for my own edification. A book on British accents for actors, and I learned how actors learn their accents. And
Well, they could simply be born with it.
well, yes, you have direct experience because of your mother or whatever. But I was talking to a friend who was in the drama department who was talking about David Lynch, and I think it came up probably because I had mentioned Dune, and this person said you should check out Eraserhead if you really want to start digging into who David Lynch is. I said okay, and I literally went across the street to the Blockbuster Video and rented Eraserhead, and I gotta be honest. First time I watched it, I had no flogging clue what it was I had just watched. I was completely lost. But I did see those elements there that after having seen Dune, and then by this point I had seen Lynch's version of The Elephant Man. I'm looking at this going, I see some connective tissue here, and this was a little bit before, any serious level of internet was available. So there weren't a lot of places that I could go and, touch base with other fans, and get perspectives and whatnot. But I started to appreciate a whole different area of filmmaking, this abstract idea where the narrative was secondary to visual visual art is really what it is, evoking less of a narrative and more of an emotion, and thoughts, and even hinting at philosophies, yeah, I gotta say, David Lynch's work up to that point for me was very the woman in the radiator in Eraserhead has a face like a mushroom cloud, like the picture by Henry's bedside. They are the post-nuclear wasteland. Her warmth represents God. Yeah, I mean that's definitely one interpretation, and you've just hit on several elements that again I think are through lines for David Lynch, right? There's something about distortions and I would say abnormalities of the head, and beings with large heads, sometimes faceless features. You're right. The mushroom cloud definitely is a through line, culminating in the third season of Twin Peaks, with the Trinity testing. So yeah. I have my own interpretation of what's going on with Eraserhead. Maybe a little surface level, maybe a little too literal, but we'll focus on
we'll
that.
Definitely get to it. Tim Smith says Lynch grew up during the Cold War, very much influenced his work. Indeed. I do want to say hello to a few people who have joined us in the chat. Dulcimerist.
Hello.
Of course, Big Al Presents is with us. I am seeing Tim for the first time, so thank you to Tim Smith for joining us. And my partner in crime, the toxic gunslinger himself, the man who cannot be killed, Outlaw Bill. I will be joining Bill Thursday for Action Theater, and we're going to be watching Jack Reacher. It's 3:30 p.m. Thursday. And of course, Boomer has joined us on the panel. Good to see you, Boomer.
Hello. I mean, I don't know. I'm just getting here. Is it somber or is it joyful, celebrating his life? What's the mood everyone's feeling? I guess that's what I'm wondering tonight. I mean, yeah, both maybe. I don't know.
Well, yeah, maybe a little bit of both. Yeah. A little bit of awe, a little bit of memory. There's some somberness, but we were just talking about Eraserhead, and I think the quote that you got to pull from that at a time like this is, "In heaven, everything is fine."
Yeah, I remember that song. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I remember I was I was in Orlando at the time, and I remember there was this great little indie movie theater there that wasn't like the mainstream multiplex, and they had two movies playing, and one was Hayao Miyazaki's The Princess Mononoke, and the other was The Straight Story. And I was like, oh, which of these do I see? And I'm like, oh, and I decided on Princess Mononoke because I was worried that thing would be taken out of there after a week. Because back then, Japanese animation was like not popular like it is today. But then the next week I said, is Straight Story still playing? And it was. So I went and saw that very next week. Yes.
And so one of the things that I thought was amazing is when we all got together for Twin Peaks at these different festivals in Snoqualmie. And there was one that we went to where Jen was there, his daughter, and she actually called him and said, "Hey, we're all at the fest. Say hello to everyone. There's a bunch of people here. Say hello." And she had him on speaker. He was talking to us. That was
hello,
really cool.
Everyone.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, the following year, he never actually physically went to these things, but the following year after that, he had filmed a little feature set in, I believe it was set in the Red Room, if my recollection is correct, of himself. And, it was a David Lynch piece. I don't think he talked in it. Very weird, very avant-garde. Done in that style that from Twin Peaks, that reverse motion thing. I do believe it has since become available either as an extra on one of the releases of Twin Peaks. I have them all, so I can never remember which one it is. Or it might be in his lime green box. But he originally did it specifically for us at the Twin Peaks Fest that particular year. And it was directly as a result of Jen calling him the year before. So it was like his way of doing something nice for the fans directly,
That
was kind of sweet.
Yeah.
All right. Tim in the chat saying thank you. Asked me what the symbol means in Inland Empire. If I remember that from the film and would like to know. I have not seen Inland Empire straight through. I've seen I've seen sections of it here on YouTube, people posting individual scenes.
Can I ask a question?
No.
What is Inland Empire? I have to confess, and I should know because I did buy it for my sister as a birthday present when you were getting her.
Have you not seen it at all?
I don't think I've seen it at all. I was meant to watch it. And is it a series, a movie? What is it?
Oh, it's a movie.
It's a film. It's a film. Okay. It's a longer one, but it's a film.
Yeah. How long is it?
3 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. There was something odd about it that was a shot on video instead of film. Is that what happened with that?
It was shot digitally. Yeah.
But not HD. I'm curious as to how it looks. That's what I'm curious.
Oh, I don't know if it. I don't know enough about resolution and stuff like that. Tom Connors is the one that really knows all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But,
I mean, it may look great. I just have not seen it.
Well,
yeah.
My theory, kind of going off onto a brief tangent here, is I think shooting in HD is better when you're making a film set present day. But if you try to do it and you're shooting a film that takes place in the past, like, say, for example, Public Enemies, which was Michael Mann's movie about Dillinger. What took me out of the film was the photography, because you're shooting a film that takes place in the 30s with obviously very modern cameras, and it just took me out of it. But if you shoot something that way, set it present day, like Inland Empire does, or at least appears to in what I've seen of it, it doesn't bother me as much. Tim says, Inland Empire is one of only a handful of movies, maybe 2 or 3, that I would put on par with great works in other forms, sculpture, literature, etc. New 4K Inland Empire release is great. I'm glad there's a 4K, and I'm glad that they're starting to put David Lynch's films on 4K. I remember, I will give you Inland Empire as an example. You could not find that in stores.
Yeah,
it's very difficult. I must have done it mail order or something, because I don't know how I got my hands on it exactly, but yeah.
So, like I've mentioned before, a lot of once I had discovered David Lynch, the benefit of having worked for a video store, I was able to get a hold of obscure films that wouldn't otherwise. I don't want to say they wouldn't be available, but you wouldn't see them in retail locations. If you went to your average video store, if you went to, wherever you bought videos at, you wouldn't see them. But they were absolutely in the wholesale catalogs. If you worked at a video store and you were the buying manager, you had access to it, but most people didn't know what it was. So I was the only one who would say, you know what? This is an independent filmmaker. It's weird. I know you're not going to, rent a lot of them, but it's maybe not a bad idea to have one of his films, one of each of his films. I mean, not, just one David Lynch film, available, so that some college student comes in who's, working on his drama thesis or something, whatnot. And they actually got more play than you would expect, especially after Twin Peaks came out. And it didn't hurt that I was, there at the desk when people would ask for recommendations. And I go, look, if you're looking for something different and you like Twin Peaks, you might want to try, and I'd give them a suggestion of something like, Inland Empire or whatever. Just keep in mind, it's not as straightforward as Twin Peaks. Well, Twin Peaks is pretty weird. Well, this is really weird. Well, you know what? I'll give it a try, And honestly, I think that's the heart behind independent film, right? The director, the creator of the film, is just trying something out. So you have to go at it with that kind of a spirit. My opinion.
So this is another question I have for y'all in the group. If you could only own one David Lynch movie, which would it be? This is going to be a tough one. One David Lynch movie.
Troy owns, I think, all of them.
If you could only own one.
I don't know that I own all of them, but I own a lot of them.
I think I've pretty much gotten you every David Lynch film,
including some of the collections of short films. I mean, let's think about what there is, right? Okay, so we got Inland Empire, we got Mulholland Drive, we got
Blue Velvet.
Blue Velvet, right?
Firewalk. I'll count the
Firewalk.
Twin Peaks
Or
movie.
the one in the green lime green box.
Well, Elephant Man. There's let's see,
Wild at Heart.
Racerhead. Wild at Heart.
Lost Highway.
Lost Highway, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? And I think this might be my choice. Industrial Symphony number 1.
Industrial Symphony number 1.
Industrial Symphony number 1.
I
Yes.
can see that. Yeah. I think I still have the VHS of that.
Oh, I think I do too, actually. He also released it on DVD in the lime green box. So,
you see, yeah. I don't have the lime green box. Is the thing. I need to get that.
Yeah. There's a lot of great extras for some of those films that we were just talking about too. In that one.
What one movie would I pick? There was a time when I would have said Blue Velvet. There was a time when I would have said Fire Walk with Me. But the one that I keep going back to in my mind is Mulholland Drive.
Interesting. That was a head scratcher.
Yeah, but it is. But I think I have figured out. I mean, I know what it represents to me, which I think in the end was kind of the point of it. That it is. It does. Do my theories behind that film explain everything? No. My theories behind season 3 of Twin Peaks, even though most of those theories ended up being wrong, and those did not completely explain everything, and I never expected it to.
True.
The one that always throws me, and the one that I need to give a rewatch to, is Lost Highway.
Oh, see, that's my pick.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, go ahead, Boomer, please.
Here's what it is. With me and Lost Highway, I have a lot of history with this movie because I remember when I was kind of starved for a new David Lynch something after Twin Peaks, because I watched Twin Peaks, unfortunately not as it aired, after it aired, when I got my hands on the VHS tapes, the that one set that came out that had a bunch of episodes on each tape, and then I watched Fire Walk with Me, and I'm like, well, what is Lynch up to now? And then finally Lost Highway was coming out, so I want to say I saw that in the movies, but I don't remember. I think I did. I know I saw it in the movies and also on videotape a couple times. And I remember, too, I had the soundtrack to it, that wonderful soundtrack, which was one of the first CDs I actually bought, because I was kind of not much of a music buyer. And then even when I did buy music, I would get an audio tape because I didn't have a CD player, but I bought Lost Highway soundtrack on CD with a lot of the I guess the Nine Inch Nails stuff and Marilyn Manson and all this other really weird soundtrack. And but that movie just it stood out to me. It's like it's like that wonderful time of the late 90s when like independent movies were all over the place. And I'm not even saying Lost Highway was an independent movie, but I kind of throw it in with all the rest of them. How like you would go to the movies to see something different. Like you weren't I wouldn't necessarily go to the movies to see the mainstream blockbuster. I was trying to see these more odd features that would get released. I mean, even companies like New Line, they would release weird stuff like Dark City. That was not a normal mainstream movie, but they gave it a budget and put it out there. And but I really did enjoy Lost Highway. Patricia Arquette's in that, Balthazar Getty. Patricia Arquette in that dual role. Which in fact, it's funny. There was like a book of like pinup pictures that came out, and I think it was something along the lines of Naughty and Nice, and it's like she sort of embodies that in that movie with the two characters she plays in some ways. I don't know, and
For sure.
it's one too that I never actually owned. I think after I saw it, because I think the DVD releases of it were kept getting botched. I know Lynch went on a tear. I think I forgot what company released it. He was not happy with the release they did of it, and finally Criterion released it a couple of years ago on Blu-ray and 4K Blu-ray. So I picked up the Criterion Blu-ray. It's a very nice, nice edition of that movie. So, and I finally watched it again, and like, yeah, this still is a head scratcher. The weird guy who I wonder, is he the Grim Reaper? Is he something out of Twin Peaks, like one of those weird beings? I mean, I don't know who he is when he gives him the phone and says, "I'm in your house right now," and he's standing in front of Bill Pullman, and he's talking to the guy in front of him on the phone. It's I don't know, and I know that one got slammed by the critics when it came out, unlike Mulholland Drive, which they loved, and I never quite understood why.
If you think about why they liked
like
Mulholland Drive, it's not a big surprise.
If you're but there's beautiful women in Lost Highway also, so it's if that's what the issue is.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna. I don't know, but
could also be just as simple as being able to. I do think that of the films we've talked about, and maybe it's just me, because I've spent so much time with Mulholland Drive, and I really do at this point feel like I really do understand it. I just feel like it is an easier film to understand than many of Lynch's works. Another thing that's unique about Mulholland Drive, in terms of understanding the work itself, is that it is actually, there are only 2 films by David Lynch where he gives in and helps the audience understand what's going on. With Mulholland Drive, he's got the famous clues, things to watch out for, the list of things that were handed out to people as they walked into the theater. The same was true with Dune, in that you were handed a glossary of terms. That one is less of a David Lynch thing and more of a Dune thing, because
we didn't get that though. When I saw in theaters, we didn't get the glossary.
Interesting.
But yet at the same time, I didn't feel like I was missing anything. I think I understood it well enough to follow it. That was me. But I get it. To go back to Tim's statement here about Lost Highway, the film very much is on a loop. I agree there. Jealousy and mental illness, for sure. Yeah. So Tim, going down that line of thinking, is Balthazar Getty's character another personality? Was he meant to be like a younger version of himself? Or, because that's the thing I don't get. It's like the mystery man, Robert Blake's character, being able to be in 2 places at once. At the same time, you also have, you have Bill Pullman, then you have Balthazar Getty, then you go back, and obviously, yes, the movie is on a loop, because you find out that in the end he calls himself. The whole Dick Laurent is dead thing on the phone. We find out in the end he's calling himself
Robert Loggia, right?
Yes.
I love his like talk about just a gangster. in that movie. I mean, he even has his own theme song when he shows up in the limo, not even the limo, that car he was driving, and it just, I should know what car because that was important, that one scene. But no, it's just, this is a dangerous man. That's how you know as soon as he
Yeah.
shows up.
And don't tailgate.
No, don't
Do
tailgate
not
and leave
tailgate.
car links. I just, he got really angry at that. And you know what? I'm in the theater thinking, you know what?
He's
how many
not
of us have-
wrong.
How many of us have wanted to do this? You know, it's like, I mean,
You know, and when you're dealing with a guy who gives 0 Fs to begin with, you know, yeah, you're going to get a reaction. Tim says, yes, Bill Pullman goes into a psychological fugue when he's locked in prison, imagines himself as a younger version of himself.
interesting.
So
That's a theory, yeah.
I think, yeah, but it's a theory that I think makes about as much sense as anything else.
Oh, I'm not crying.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
Yeah. I get it. No.
It's. I mean, I know Patricia Arquette had her own theory on it too. You can read about that later, but it has sort of a similar vibe to it. But I don't know though. I'm just I
will point out.
Mhm.
I will point out that you just mentioned that Patricia Arquette had her own theory about it. I would caution people that want to use an actor in a film and their opinions of it.
Oh, I'm not saying she's right. I just thought it was an interesting.
No. Yeah, but I just, it gave me the opportunity to make a more general statement.
Yes.
My opinion, and I think a lot of classically trained actors would agree with me on this, is that an actor is to the film what a canvas is to a painting.
Right.
And the canvas does not get to define the meaning behind the paint that's splashed on it.
Right. I don't think that her opinion has any more authority than anyone else's. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I'll give you that an actor probably knows the film better than you do, having memorized the entire script.
Yeah, I mean,
has worked with the director and everything.
Because to play the character, for an actor to play a character, you have to have some idea of where your character is going and where the story is going. So an actor coming up with their own theory. I mean, this reminds me of something I saw in an interview with Robert Blake. And he said to David Lynch, I'm not sure I understand everything in the script. So if I'm taking the character in the wrong direction, let me know so I can make that adjustment. And I thought that was interesting, because you have
that's an actor who understands
actor thinking about character. Yeah,
that's an actor who understands his role, and I mean that in multiple senses.
Yeah,
it's interesting for a very I don't know what the right word is, avant-garde director, but he was also very he loved Hollywood. David Lynch, especially old Hollywood. You could tell that in how he talked about that. He was very reverential. He used to say that, they say old Hollywood's gone, but if you listen, I can sometimes hear like the old actors and stuff walking about. And I just think there
are people in the industry that I don't take me too literally. But I would compare some people in the industry to David Lynch. For example, Tom Conkle. I think his view of the entertainment industry, his view of Hollywood, especially old Hollywood, very similar, or at least parallels David Lynch's. Even in, I'm going to take this even further. I think David Lynch and I believe Tom Conkle also see the flaws in Hollywood, especially modern Hollywood. You get a lot of that from Mulholland Drive. And, just sometimes a throwaway line that Lynch has said in interviews. There is definitely an idealized old Hollywood, a realistic view of old Hollywood, and maybe the realistic, flawed view of modern Hollywood.
This is the girl.
Yeah.
And the odd thing about that movie was that it's Melissa George playing her, and I suspect that Melissa George in real life was passed over, even though when she should have been the lead, and for other people who weren't, because and it's, I don't know. Hollywood is a haunted city. Oh,
Yeah.
you see.
Hollywood
Lynch
is a
is
haunted
right. You
city.
can feel and everything in certain moments, but I wonder, is that Hollywood finally gone with those fires? I don't know. And I just think it's
I think it's just becoming more haunted.
Well, yeah. I don't know.
So did Hollywood totally burn to the ground?
No.
Yeah.
Although the fires are still burning, I mean, but yeah, people are already starting to pivot and find workarounds. People always will. I think that for all that we've said about Hollywood, there will always be an element of Hollywood that lives on, even if it's not in California. But I think especially as I'm looking at what people are saying on social media, there's too many that are going to go ahead and rebuild right there, and probably vote for all the same people and do everything they can to keep everything the same, and because that's just how people are. But I also think that a trend that was beginning before these fires is there's going to be a lot of people in the entertainment industry that are going to start moving out of California and begin making films more in the independent field. Maybe like David Lynch, maybe like actually maybe like Ryan Reynolds. I mean, people that are just getting out and saying, you know what, I'm going to make my own movie. I'm going to go do it. If I got to start my own studio in Texas or Florida, I'll do it.
Yeah, I'd mentioned that on another show, was that you are going to see people branch out and go and shoot in Georgia. I wouldn't be surprised if film production in North Carolina began to increase. I think we are going to see, like you said, you're going to see more independent films. You're going to see more smaller budgeted films, because I think this is the year where the bubble is going to burst when it comes to these exorbitant budgets, and realizing that, we can't take entire films and reshoot them. We don't have the money and we're not making it back.
Do you think he's going to be honored at the Oscars?
He should be. Whether he will be or not, I don't know.
I know they did give him a Lifetime Achievement Award a couple of years ago, didn't they?
They did, yes.
Okay, so there is that.
Nate says Hollywood might be gone for good. Entertainment industry will go on.
Yeah, well, it's definitely going to have to change at this point, because
for sure.
I don't know.
Tim said best film last year was Late Night with the Devil, $15 million budget. Very good film. I haven't done my top 10 for the year yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if Late Night showed up on it. So stay tuned for that. Those of
I
you
still haven't seen it yet, but I interestingly did see a YouTube video about it that makes me want to see it. See, unlike so many other people, spoilers don't spoil movies for me. They oftentimes just make me want to see them.
You'll find it interesting. You should check it out.
I can tell. Yeah, I think I will.
They really do get the whole 70s late night show vibe going as good as they can in that movie.
I told you that the closing credits and the backdrop for Geeky Geezers was inspired by that.
Yeah, it reminds me of what they had in late night with the devil. Yeah.
Oh, very much so. Yeah.
But
if it wasn't for Troy giving me spoilers like on Twin Peaks and stuff, I never would have watched them. That's what captured my interest.
This is getting a little off topic for David Lynch, but I had never seen the movie, and this was back in the mid '90s. After we'd gotten married, I was at a Dungeons and Dragons game with my friends, and they were always quoting from a movie, and I'm like, what is this you guys keep quoting? And it's like, oh, it's Heartbreak Ridge. And I'm like, I've never seen Heartbreak Ridge. They're like, what? They canceled that night's Dungeons and Dragons game, and we sat and watched Heartbreak Ridge. I loved it so much, I went home and told Netter about it. And honestly, it wasn't the kind of movie she would have like gravitated towards, but she always said that there was something in the way that I told her about the story that she's like, yeah, I think I'd like to see that movie. Now she loves it and quotes it too.
That's one of my favorite films.
Yeah.
Hope it's nothing that's going to keep you out of the next war,
sir. Yeah, exactly.
And of course, if anyone wants to see Troy Netter's rewatch that I had the pleasure of being a part of, along with Vashnar, who's a Twitch streamer usually, but so you can go back and catch that episode. I think it was last call, right? Because you hadn't started.
At the time, I hadn't started my Monday Night the Movie, so yeah, I'm pretty sure that it was last call.
I know.
Yeah, I don't think it was on mine because I'm doing alphabetical now, but this is like going into my second or third year alphabetical, so yeah, it couldn't have been me. I'm just now getting into the H's.
So, does anybody have any thoughts? Do you think that I haven't heard anything. I know that he was working on another project that he had to, of course, at that point, his health being what it was, he had to direct remotely. Do we have any more?
I got to look it up because I forget what it was called.
Do we know if that was a completed project or?
All I can tell you right now that I know of is the name of the project was something called Unrecorded Night. It's listed as a TV series, but I'm wondering if that doesn't mean it was some sort of a streaming deal.
Huh.
It was supposed to be 13 episodes. I don't have IMDb Pro, so I can't get any more information on it than that. But I don't know. It makes me hope that they were mostly finished with it, or that someone was involved that could pick it up and finish it, because I'd be curious.
His daughter, maybe Jem will pick it up and finish.
I mean, that's true. I'm not sure how much she's still working on. Well, she's still writing and directing, especially for TV and streaming and whatnot. So I don't see why not.
actually think
What-
she'd be excited to carry on her father's work.
What was the title again, Troy?
It was called Unrecorded Night.
Recorded Night. Okay.
That sounds kind of creepy.
Yeah, I know nothing about it.
No, don't ask me. I know nothing.
I know
Right. Nate
nothing.
has a question. Deleted scenes. Do you think Twin Peaks rewatch one more time in light of events, or do you think it's too soon? Perhaps. But one thing that I know is we still have other episodes that we wanted to do. We still have the Secret History book to cover. I know we want to get Cameron from Obnoxious and Anonymous, and please go to his channel and watch the tribute that he did to David Lynch. That was an outstanding stream. He of course directed a fan film, which we also want to watch. So we have some other plans, and we want to. I know an Eraserhead watch party is something that we've been talking about. So eventually, we might get around to rewatching this series at some point. When that might be, I think that would be, farther down in the future. But it's an idea.
Well, we never watched the European movie edition of the pilot, have we? I know Troy did it on his own channel, but
Oh, I am not sure if I mean, there's got to be a way I can get a hold of it digitally to show it to you guys. I have it on VHS.
oh yikes! Okay, never mind then.
Yeah.
That might be a little tricky. All right.
I mean, we do have a VHS player.
Yeah, I mean,
but,
I have
you
the
know.
means, not
Oh,
easily
we don't want to put you
accessible,
out
but
like that. That might. Not
I
be
do
fun.
have the means to
Transfer VHS to
yeah.
DVD.
Yeah, it would take some doing. And the fact is, the reason I haven't, built a setup to do that easily is because I've been able to find so many things, online digitally. It's like, well, it's easier to just, rip it and make my own, whatever, physical media from that rather than, a direct VHS copy, which may not even be as good, but I'm sure it's out there. Yeah, actually, that might be interesting, and I think that there's definitely a night coming up we'll have to do that, because it does have a different flavor, and it really does give you the impression of, oh, okay, I see where they were going with this,
All right, I have some information here on Unrecorded Night. This is off of IMDb Pro.
I wasn't hinting that I wanted you to use your account, but I was hinting at you to use your account.
Because believe it or not, folks, I actually have one. And please see Chris Rupert's Transient on Amazon. Anyway, I gotta plug the movie I backed, folks. All right. This is your associate producer speaking. Thank you. Okay. Let's see. It does list David Lynch as being the writer, director, and sound designer. Interesting. It has the same cinematographer as season 3 of Twin Peaks, Peter Deming, and the same producing team. This is slated to be a Netflix series, 13 episodes.
See, I was right about the streaming thing.
Unrecorded Night has stayed off the radar until David Lynch copyrighted 13 unpublished episodes of the project in the dramatic work category of Production Weekly back in June of 2020. The working title of the project is Wisteria. Estimated budget $85 million. Production Weekly lists 2 production companies for Unrecorded Night. The recently incorporated A2K Productions Incorporated and Twin Peaks Productions Incorporated, which of course previously produced Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, Twin Peaks The Return, and On the Air, which was also a great sitcom that he did that was short-lived. Was to be shot at Calvert Studios in LA, where The Return was partially shot. Mark Frost has denied all affiliations with the project. So this was a Lynch on his own here. The initial number of episodes was supposed to be 25, with each one lasting an hour, but this was later changed to 13. With only 13 being copyrighted by Lynch, with each episode described as, quote, being like a mini movie. Series was scheduled for 200 shooting days, which was pushed back to 2021 following the virus of unknown origins.
Right.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. And was to be shot on location in Los Angeles. So that right now, that's all I've been able to find on it. There's no cast listed. I did hear at one time that he was planning something that was to star Laura Dern. I don't know if this is it. Maybe she was going to show up in, if she's going to show up in a episode or be in the whole thing. Your guess is as good as mine. I hope they finished it, and because it sounds intriguing. I'm definitely interested. But that's it. That's all I have on it.
Well, that sounded interesting.
Yeah.
Well, the mystery of it actually makes it
Yeah.
that much more intriguing, you know?
All right. Well,
Here's another question that eventually somebody's going to have to broach.
Brioche?
After we did that whole Twin Peaks The Return with Showtime, I don't know what the rights issues are, but what do we think the possibility is of Showtime deciding they want to go ahead with another season and conscripting Mark Frost on it? And do we even want that?
What about a reboot?
absolutely
No,
not.
we definitely do not want a reboot. Definitely do not want a reboot.
It could be like a CW version of Twin Peaks.
God.
I'm just.
Well,
I do feel like
this goes back to the question that I had. You know, you have. Here's the thing: between the original series and The Return, you have a number of actors that have passed.
Yeah.
You have most of the ones who are left say they would not do it unless Lynch was involved.
Right. That's true.
So I am also wondering that if it was, say, for example, Mark Frost sat down and wrote a 4th season.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, would Showtime do it? And or Netflix or whoever, would they could they find a network to do it? And has Mark Frost earned the same respect among the cast that Lynch did? Would the people who say that we would only do it if Lynch was involved come back for Frost?
Okay, I think there's a number of things to unpack with that. So first, I'm going to take the middle thing. I don't think Frost would do it unless he had Showtime coming to him and saying, "Hey, don't know what the rights are on the Lynch side, but we'd kind of like to continue. Would you like to do another season?" I think that's the only thing that would even get him thinking about doing. That being said, your thing about, all the people that said they wouldn't do it without David, you have to keep that in the context of what was going on at the time. Originally, it was happening with Mark and with David, and David was starting to feel the pressures from Showtime, and he was going to back out. And this was everybody involved saying, without David, you won't have a project. You better get him back or we're not doing it. It was more of them negotiating with Showtime than it was them literally meaning they couldn't do it without him. I mean, they might. Many of them might feel that way or feel that there's no point in doing it. But I don't think that's what they meant at the time. I mean, but again, for me, I think it still comes back to, again, and I'm the one that brought up the question, do we want them to do that? Maybe we don't. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm thinking maybe leave it
But
as it
but
is.
then I guess there was one other question you asked that I should answer. Does Frost, has he earned the right or whatever? And I'm going to say that based on the books that he did and whatnot. Yeah, I think so. If anything, we might lose some of the Lynchness of it, but we would definitely get more of a. We'd get more straight talk. I think the average view.
So there's no guessing what he meant.
Well, no, I'm sure he would still be cagey about it, but I think it would be easier for the normies to follow.
What about that prequel idea you had, Troy? Like them doing it about everybody when they were younger?
I think I'd rather see that than have someone trying to continue without David. I think that's actually, yeah. But I'm just kind of talking out of my ass. Let's be honest. I don't really see it happening. I'm just saying, what if? Like I said, I'm not even saying I necessarily want it to happen.
Boomer, I think you should take this one.
Sightings of Flappy have been popping up all over. Some rumors he's going out of hiding to pay his respects to David Lynch. I've heard many stories that people said he died, but then people see him. It's like Tupac and Elvis.
I was just gonna say like Elvis, yeah. In fact, if you saw, I don't remember whose show it was that Tom Connors was guesting on just recently. They were looking at this was just before they took TikTok down, which, by the way, I understand is back up again. But they were looking at a video about Elvis, and some of the footage. Tom Connors is like, "Oh, is this like Elvis is still alive type footage? You know, like Elvis and Bigfoot type stuff."
I don't know.
Alrighty.
So, yeah, I mean, I understand that too.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess that's all she wrote until next week, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
we will.
honestly, we could go on and on about David. It's just, you
Yeah. Well,
needed to,
fortunately, we're in a bit of a time crunch this evening, as
and in a
needless
way,
to
the whole show
yeah,
is about that. As we
yeah.
go forward, we're always going to be talking about David. So it's not like, this is a one and done sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. All right. Of course, I mean, we are going to be back next week. I'm sure we'll have some other memories. We'll definitely have some words to say. We are definitely going to do some rewatches on the films, and I know we've kind of short shrifted the other television shows that he was involved with. On the Air certainly comes to mind. The documentary series that he did for Fox with Richard Dreyfuss, which I thought was excellent. Short-lived, but very well done. Folks, we lost a visionary, and
Yeah.
but his work will live on, and they will live on with his fans. And that's why we did this show to begin with, because we were fans.
Yep.
It is up to us when people like David Lynch pass. It is up to us to continue in their stead, for lack of a better term. He will be in our memory, and his films are going to be on our shelves, and so are his albums. And while we were not entirely surprised because we knew what his health situation was, we weren't expecting to lose him this soon, I don't think. So as you can tell, I'm still at something of a loss for words. And there have been other tributes on other channels. Please go and seek them out, especially Cameron's channel, Obnoxious and Anonymous. Subscribe to his channel if you have not yet done so.
Charlotte Nightstar did a nice
Charlotte
little musical
Nightstar.
tribute.
Yes. Indeed. Very much so, Nate. All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Rest in peace, David Lynch, and I will miss you.
They say that people die twice: when you die physically, and when the last person says your name for the last time. And I do believe that it's going to be a long time before the last time that someone says David Lynch's name. So in that regard, he's absolutely going to be with us for a very long time.
And he's one of those people that he's hard to forget. So, like Troy was saying, his memory, his work is going to live on, because no one does it like David Lynch.
Mm.
All right. I think that's as good a place as any to wrap it up for this evening. Please join us next week at our regular time, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central, as we delve deeper into the world of Twin Peaks and the filmography of David Lynch. Netter, would you like to take us out with your usual closing?
Absolutely. Y'all know what I always say. And even though I say it all the time, I'm not just saying it to say it. I mean every word of it. We can talk amongst ourselves, and that's all well good and fun. But it's so much more fun when you guys are joining us in the chat and you're dropping the comments, questions, trivia, being goofy, whatever it may be. And it doesn't feel like we're separated by miles or continents in some cases. It feels like we're all hanging out in our family room, passing the popcorn and having a great time. And you guys, you know you're not just our friends. You are our family. We love you guys and we appreciate you so very much. You could be anywhere right now and you're here. And we appreciate that so very much. It's not just encouraging for those of us on the panel, it's encouraging to everyone else that's in the chat as well. I mean, I know I enjoy seeing you guys in each of our chats. And every time I do, it makes me smile because it's like, they're here, you know? And if you're not here, we do miss you. So if something ever comes up where you can't make a stream, can you pop in and at least say hi so we know you're okay? Because we'd really appreciate that. And thank you for the many, many ways that you all support our channels. You give us the thumbs up, the comments in the, not just in the chat during the stream, but comments afterwards, helping those algorithms. You've become members. You've given us super chats and super stickers. You share out the streams. The subscribing, even for the new people, subscribing to our channels, it means so much to us. And a sub doesn't cost you anything. It's just clicking a little button, but it's immeasurable to us as content creators. So thank you so very much for being here with us and for us. And until next time, good night and God bless.
All right. I do want to remind everyone that Troy's Troy will continue with his Blake 7 rewatch, episode 2 of season 2. That will be at its normal time, I
can't hear
guess.
anything, so I don't know if I got dropped out or not.
Pardon me?
I can't hear anything, so I don't know if I dropped out or not.
No, you didn't. You're good.
No, they can still hear you.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So usual time for Blake 7, Troy?
Yeah. Oh yeah, because this is early for us, isn't it? Yeah, I've got it scheduled for 9:30, so we'll stick to 9:30.
That would be 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern, folks.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot. Right.
Which I unfortunately will have to skip tonight because I am going to be here in a few minutes. I will be joining 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser as I will be on the panel for Toxic Tuesday. And we're going to be talking about The Equalizer 3.
Cool.
All right. So thank you to everyone who joined us, both on X and on here in the chat. From HQ, the corner of Sparkwood in 21, and all points north, south, east, west, and beyond. Good night. Take care. Stay strong. Be safe and healthy. Stay warm, because I know it's snowing outside where I am. Because this is how we win.